Do you oppose NATO membership for Ukraine?
I don't think it's practical to have it, personally. I know that our new Secretary of Defense, who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that that is something that's not.
Donald Trump is practically fuming, and Keir Starmer is at the vortex of his rage in a shocking move that blatantly contradicts Trump's foreign policy. The Prime Minister of the UK has opened the gates to a major diplomatic confrontation. This is not merely another spat of politics. This is direct defiance of Trump's power, an act that may bring down repercussions on Britain. Will Starmer's latest betrayal see the country tumble into economic and political isolation? In what ways might Trump retaliate against a post-Brexit economy in Britain? Stick with us as we break the entire story, the hidden power tussle behind the scenes, and the dangerous game Starmer is playing with perhaps one of the most unpredictable leaders in recent history. Before we proceed any further, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to never miss anything about the latest political shocks and betrayals. So, let's dive in. Donald Trump doesn't take betrayal lightly. He remembers every grievance and insult, every moment someone dared to cross him. And right now, with the way Keir Starmer is behaving, Trump is close to losing his patience, which could prove dangerous for UK-US relations. The issues comprising NATO, Ukraine, and Starmer's seemingly irresponsible willingness to go against Trump on foreign policy have triggered alarm bells at the UK office. While Trump has argued about Ukraine's NATO membership being neither probable nor a good idea, Starmer pursues the exact opposite argument. In other words, he is already challenging Trump directly on his views concerning the Ukraine war, NATO, and Russia in general. This is not mere talk. It is an all-out diplomatic insurrection against a man who never forgives a challenge. Things were worse from there. Starmer has already gone to enough lengths to annoy Trump for years. He and the Labour Party have mocked, ridiculed, and insulted the former U.S. president, calling him everything from racist to neo-Nazi sympathizer. These statements were made when Trump was out of power, but now that it appears he is back in the White House, there are real-life consequences. That's because Starmer has already done enough to create an air of hostility with Trump. He and his party said the worst thing about him, calling him a racist, sad little man, misogynist, neo-Nazi sympathizer.
Voting Keir Starmer, the UK Premier.
Yes, he's coming tonight.
What do you think of him? Some of his colleagues in government are quite critical of you.
Well, I'm going to see him in about an hour, so I have to be nice, right? But I actually think he's very nice. I think he ran a great race. He did very well. It's very early, but he's popular, and I'll be seeing him, and I'll say...
UK officials are in panic mode, knowing that fueling tensions between Starmer and Trump could harm already fragile UK-US relations. But what drives Starmer to take such risks? What does he stand to gain, and how will Trump make him pay for his actions? In this video, we'll cover all the bases. Donald Trump is notorious for holding grudges and seeking revenge. He has the power to reorganize world politics to suit his own interests. And this is where Keir Starmer is playing with fire.
Well, my position is the NATO position. This was discussed at the summit that we had last year in Washington, where it was agreed amongst all NATO members that there should be an irreversible path for Ukraine to NATO membership.
And you have backed away from that, to be absolutely clear.
No, obviously nobody was expecting that to be.
Secretary of Defense, who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that that is what?
Do you view Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. We've given them, in my opinion, $350 billion. That's what the real number is. You don't hear that number. And Europe has given, in my opinion, $100 billion. And they've done it in the form of a loan. And I have a Secretary of Treasury right now who's actually quite brave. He's over in Ukraine on a train. And there's a lot of things happening around that train that aren't so good. And he's going there to get a document done where we're going to be assured that we're going to, in some form, get this money back, because we're putting up far more money than Europe, and Europe is in far more danger than we are. We have an ocean in between. Europe has nothing in between. You know what they have in between? They have Ukraine in between. So wait a minute. So as you know, Europe is putting up money and they're getting it in the form of a loan. And the United States under Biden didn't do loans. They just handed money every time somebody walked in from Ukraine. They just handed them money. Foolish.
With Trump back in power, he had every reason to resent Starmer, the labor leader who had opposed him at every turn. Starmer had denounced Trump as a threat to democracy, destructive to global stability, and an outright loser. Despite this, Trump initially chose diplomacy, offering friendly comments about Starmer's electoral victory. This suggested that Trump was willing to forgive and forget past slights and work to strengthen the US-UK bond. However, Starmer then took a confrontational approach, challenging Trump on sensitive geopolitical issues like NATO and Ukraine. Starmer publicly stated that Ukraine was on an irreversible path to NATO membership, directly opposing Trump's stance. This move is not only a policy disagreement, but also a public rejection of Trump's diplomatic strategy. By doing so, Starmer is implying that the UK will not follow Washington's lead under the Trump administration. Trump has consistently stated that those who defy him will pay a price. The question now is, how will Trump respond to Starmer's defiance, and what consequences will the UK face?